Well, now the formal presentation. Welcome back to everyone. Congratulations on your performances in the other rooms and here, and congratulations for staying till this time in the evening. And to close this incredible evening, the first one of the two we are planning to have in this convention, we are delighted to welcome Griselda Beacon, a highly respected teacher-educator with over 20 years of international experience in English language education and curriculum development. Griselda holds a master's degree from, help me with the German,
Universität Marburg.
Okay, in Germany. And specializes in integrating literature, creativity, and intercultural education into language teaching. She has worked extensively across Latin America, Europe, North Africa, and Asia, training teachers and designing inclusive, innovative learning experiences. She is also a co-editor of 2 international volumes on diversity and inclusion in ELT. Please give a warm welcome to Griselda. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Do you continue or?
No, I'm ready. I'm ready. Now,
you ready?
Your PowerPoint. Do you have the?
Yes, I have everything. I have everything. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Leticia, for this amazing invitation.
You're
I'm
welcome.
really happy. I am from Cordoba, actually. I was born in a small town called Canals. So whenever I come to the province, I feel at home. And so I really like to be here. It's a personal thing. So thank you very much for this. And I would also like to thank Path Examinations, because Path Examinations, together with National Geographic, made it possible for me to come here. So I would like to thank them both for having chosen me to give the closing plenary today. I planned a session which was going to be like 50 minutes long, and I will try to stick to the 50 minutes. But remember, we started 10 minutes later, right? First, and I am planning to take this time at the very end. And the second is, I decided today, when I came to Cordoba, to start with a short story, which I didn't before, because the story made sense all of a sudden. And it's a story I never tell, but it's a story I always remember. And I never tell because it is an obvious story. It is a story with a moral, and the moral is absolutely obvious. But I like it all the same, and I will tell it. I generally tell more subtle stories, stories we have to think about possible endings, stories which make us think about how it resonates, but not this time. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I am going to start with my jacket on, and as soon as I get a bit warm, I will take it off. But now I was freezing, so I'm planning to stay like this for a while. So, are you ready for the story? All right. This is, hello. This is a story which was written in 1961. Apparently it was a poem originally by a woman called Helen Buckley. And the story is called The Little Boy. And I will invent the story. I will follow the storyline, but I will decorate it in the way I like, right? Because I have teacher's freedom. Or in literature, which is my area of expertise, I would say I have teacher's license. Like poetic license, right? So I have teacher's license. So this is the story of a small boy who goes to school for the first day. So imagine this little boy. This little boy is thrilled that he's going to school. There are so many stories about school. And his grandma bought him a lovely rucksack, a school rucksack, and inside he's got a box full of crayons, new crayons to use. And the mother bought a classic El Nene block, full of colors, So the child is ready to go to school for the first day. Imagine that little, tiny little boy and that big, big, big school. But the child is brave, and the child goes into the building. And then somebody says that he has to go to a certain room, and he goes there. And that's where the school and the classroom is. And in that classroom, there are lots of children like him, and they're all sitting there. And the teacher, who happens to be lovely and very gentle, tells the children that they are going to draw. Yes, says the child, I've got everything. I've got the box full of crayons, and I've got a nene block, and I can draw on a red surface or on a green surface. And the teacher said, and we're going, and he thinks, oh, I can draw a dinosaur, and I can draw a tiger or a lion, and all the toys he has at home. But the teacher said, we're going to draw flowers. Well, okay, I like flowers. I can draw a rose, or I can... And the child starts drawing a lovely rose, that one he has in some garden, I don't know, whether the grandma's garden or somewhere around, or perhaps the square in the middle of the town. But the thing is that while he was drawing this amazing rose, which was yellow and pink and blue, the teacher said, wait. And the teacher said, I am going to draw the flower on the board so you can copy. And the child had to draw a red flower with a green stem. And of course, he never showed his flower. He never showed his rose. But he was a lovely child. He came home and he said everything was okay. Some weeks later, the teacher said, we're going to play with clay. I love to play with clay. At home, he plays with mud and he creates things. And the teacher said, we're going to make a dish. Oh, yeah. And so he started thinking of a dish with the shape of a star. And the teacher said, wait. I am going to make a deep dish and you will copy. And the child did that. He continued going to school. He was a very neat little boy. He was doing everything he was asked to do, and there was no problem. His deep dish was okay, his flour was okay. Parents received no notice saying that the child had any sort of problem. But the parents, the father or the mother, I don't know who, somebody in the family found a job somewhere else, and they had to move and change cities. So they packed, and they packed everything. And he packed his rucksack with his box full of crayons and his El Nene block. All the color papers were there. He could only use the white ones, as the teacher said. And he went to a new school. Now the little boy was a little bit older, and he had some experience about school, right? So he saw the school, and it was even bigger than the other one. But he was brave again, and he got into the building, and he went to his classroom, and he sat. And the new teacher greeted him and said, well, we have a new boy at school, so be nice with him, etc., blah, blah, blah. And the class started. And the teacher said, today we will draw. The child knew about this, right? And the teacher said nothing else. She actually started walking around, looking at what the children were doing. And then she saw the boy who was sitting there, and the boy was waiting. And the boy was waiting, and the box of crayons were standing there. And the teacher said, why don't you start? I'm waiting. Waiting for what? For the instructions. What instructions? Your instructions. What I have to do. Well, you do what you want to do. How come? Yes, draw what you imagine. But. And the teacher knew the child was dazzled and says, listen, imagine if everybody drew the same picture. I would not know who you were. Just stop. And then he said, can I do whatever I want? Yes. And the child opened that box of crayons for the first time with the freedom to draw what he wanted to draw. And do you know what he drew? A red flower with a stem. I know. That's why I said it's a predictable story. Yes. We all know, right? The moral is clear. I could have said, do you know what he drew? And then I would have stopped there and you could imagine whatever you wanted, right? But I wanted to just destroy your illusions. Anyway, this is something, I like this story because we can think about what kind of teachers we want to be, right? And what mandates or what we receive, what we are supposed to do or be, what we want to be, and how we combine both, right? I also chose this story because a child needs a teacher to transform his life. And this is us. But the thing is, you're not going to be the super teacher who will transform every single life of every child you will have as a student all your life. No. You will be able to transform some. And you will not be aware until they tell you. When they tell you, remember, because that is what makes you be who you are. And that is what makes our work valuable, right? So, and do not share it necessarily, because it can be self-love, self-pride. But you know, yes, this is what you know. This is what you keep, right? And you will transform lives, because that's what we do every day, right? So, and because of creativity, obviously, right? So now I'm ready to start with the presentation, and I will connect the presentation to to the story, and I will connect the story with what happened in previous sessions as well throughout the day, because we had the first one about what creativity was and how we could define creativity and how difficult it is, as it is difficult to define many other concepts. One of the concepts we find it difficult to define is culture as well, right? And I am planning to work with culture today, with intercultural education. So, what I am planning to do today is three things. First, to introduce pedagogies of creativity and pedagogies of inclusion in English language education, because that's what I find fascinating in teaching foreign languages, right? When we teach foreign languages, we have already there for us the experience of interacting with foreignness. It's there, it's foreign, it's different. And we have it in the classroom all the time. So pedagogies of inclusion have to do with perspective taking, right? Has to do with what, Mara was saying that choosing textbooks was like shoes, wearing shoes. Well, perspective taking, putting yourself in the position of others, wearing other people's shoes is a little bit what we are doing all the time, without forgetting which shoes are our shoes, right? And why we walk with those shoes and not the others. Then this would lead to developing intercultural awareness with perspective taking and the construction of identity. We heard a panel on identity today when they were talking about teachers' voices. They were trying to build an identity of Cordovician teachers, right? Who they are, what they need, right? So this is your identity as a collective group. And finally, whether I can design innovative learning experiences which foster linguistic development, interpersonal and intercultural connections. Well, we will see whether that happens. But I will try to combine all of that, because that's what I do. I mean, that's the pedagogical framework I have somehow put together to represent, or to somehow represent the kind of work I do, right? And what I believe in. Now, the first thing I would like you to do, and this is your work, and I will give you 2 minutes for that, is to draw a map of the world. Remember the child, draw the flower? Well, now you're going to draw the map of the world. Yes? Yes, I'm sorry, but you will. I promise. Remember, you can be absolutely free. Yes, be free. Be simple. Be schematic. Oh. Oh, that's lovely. Ah, it has a frame, yours. Okay. I'm checking that you're drawing the map of the world. It's an exercise, right? Hey, that's nice. Wow, that has lots of details. I'm being supportive. Oh, that's detailed too. Oh my, this is wonderful. You didn't bring an nene block. I know. Oh, that's lovely. Oh, that's great. That's really good. Okay, so now that you have your map, let us see your map. I mean, that's good. Oh, I love it. Wow. England looks like a house. It's lovely. It's really nice. Now that you have your map, show your map to your neighbor and comment on it. Compare. Let's see what they did. No, it's okay. I mean, compare. Let's see. Look at this map. Look at this map of the world. Look at your. That's yours. Yeah.
It's very simple.
No, well, that's I told him that was elaborate. I told him. Look at that. This is yours is simple,
Look
but
at
it's.
mine.
I love that. Okay, now, have you done it? Well, now we're going to check whether what you did is something similar to this. Something similar, I mean, yes? Good. It's more artistic. Wow, that's good. Yeah, look at that. Perfect. Now, yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. This is full of details. Oh, wait a minute. Is that yours? Like that? Perfect. Now, the next question is, those who did not do something like this, show it. Aha, good. Look we have lots of diverse people in this group. Come with me. Now, this one here is like a picture of a valley with a river. Yeah, just a snapshot of a place. Now, this one is with the water in the middle, so we don't know what that really is. Now, in your case, your map is, sorry for the expression, it's a wrong expression, but I will say it all the same. it's upside down. Right? That is to explain that it's opposite to this. But upside down sounds like negative, and it shouldn't be. Right? Excellent. And then somebody else who did something different here? Ah, look at that. It's the round thing. Very good. Ah, look at this. Is lovely. Very free. Right, very free. The continents, they have very weird shapes. Yes, very artistic. And look at that. That's the hemisphere, the globe. Right. Now, oh, what happened here? Okay. So I wrote there perspective taking. It is overwhelming the number of maps which look like this, more or less details. And that is what we learned, right? That is what we learned. Now, map making is not natural, right? It's a cultural thing. But we have internalized it at school, that it has become a natural thing. And so whatever is different is challenging this. Fantastic. And this is, for example, I had last year a group of teachers. They were history teachers, French history teachers, yes? French history teachers. And I asked them to do the map of the world to the French history teachers. And these are some examples. I chose some which, from that is more traditional, a little bit more creative. This is interesting. However, these three have the same perspective. The center is and the north, Europe and the United States. They rule the world. How we construct power. The first person who talked to them this morning was talking about power, right? Now, interestingly, two of them did it differently. One of them did the globe like this, without anything, nope, nothing. And the other one made those lines representing 3 continents. Where the other continents are, probably on the other side. We don't know, but we don't care. The idea of doing something different is already interesting, right? And I didn't say you have to be accurate, right? Never said that. So why would the person be? Now, you see these history, geography teachers. From all of them, 3 of them kept the model. 2 of them challenged it. And then I asked them whether they knew maps of the world which were not this. Do you know any map of the world which is not this? No? No? You have never seen it? You did? Good. You did. And the rest, you have never seen it? Well, now we're going to see what we don't see. Because actually, you did see what you say you didn't see. Yes. Now, well, the idea was, now, probably the Argentine-centric perspective, which would give hours to the psychologist. Now, this one, look at that, Argentina in the center. This was created here in Argentina by the National Institution of Hidráulica, no sé qué, apparently for something to, I don't know what they were analyzing, but they made it and they put Argentina. And of course, sorry, Buenos Aires in the center. Center in Buenos Aires, of course, porque si vamos a hacerla, la hacemos grande, ¿no? O sea, hacemos todo el complejo completo. In the center of the world and the center of Argentina. Anyway, I live there, that's why I know. Now, so this is an interesting one, not well known, nobody knows about it, which probably had some sort of specific role for some specific thing. However, this one is very popular. This is the map they use in Australia. And this one too, with Australia not only in the middle, but also on top. Yes, and this one is a very famous one of the United Nations. Because the United Nations tried to find a map which would break the idea of power introduced by using the Mercator projection, which is the other one, the one we know. That is the Mercator projection, which of course developed because of colonialism. The sailors, they created maps, so that's what they did. And those maps developed and developed until we had. But I'm not a geography teacher, I don't know, that is the only thing I know, right? So the rest is my own invention. But this, the United Nations chose this map with the center in the Arctic to create a different map to represent the United Nations and to avoid this question of power. Why this and not this? Who knows? Because the center here is the Antarctic, basically, and the center here is the Arctic. I'm not going to work philosophically at the moment, and I will not try to give other reasons, but this map is a map we saw, but we never noticed. And there is another map we must have seen lots of times, and we have ignored, and that's sad. The engraving that Joaquín Torres García did in 1941 or 43, which is called América Invertida. The engraving is in Uruguay, in Montevideo, in Torres García Museum, and it's everywhere. It's on mates, it's on T-shirts, it's everywhere, and you hear it on clocks, on mugs, on bags, etc. And it's a map that it's been circulating for decades, and we have never noticed, and it's our map, right? And he wrote he had a very clear political intention. Political not in the sense of parties, of political parties, but in the sense of being a political citizen, right? He was living in France, studying there the whole modernist thing, and then he came back to Uruguay to create la Escuela del Sur. Y en la Escuela del Sur, él dijo, el sur es nuestro norte. And so he turned America, or South America, upside down, and South America is pointing to the north. The south is our north. It has a lot to do, again, with identity construction, right? That's why I am connecting it with what we were talking earlier, yes, in the panel. And then the thing is, the question is, have you ever noticed this image in your everyday life? The thing is, how many of these images invade or are present in our everyday life and we ignore them? We do not see them because we do not challenge what we have learned. We do not challenge the Mercator projection. We accept it as the norm, and whatever is outside the norm is, well, creative, artistic, funny, or whatever, right? When in fact, all of these could coexist because there are different perspectives of the same, and how it affects us. Because how often do you hear people say, ¿podré ser soez? I'm not sure. Somos, bueno, lo voy a decir en mendocino, somos el poto del mundo. Argentina está en el poto del mundo, right? We feel like almost outside the map, right? Because physically in the map, we are almost, yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yes, you were thinking. Yes. Absolutely, you were thinking of butterflies and birds, and you were absolutely bucolic in your world, and it was fascinating to see what you did. And I was being very, absolutely, yes, absolutely. When I was in Ushuaia once giving a talk, I arrived, and it was 12 o'clock. They took me to a place to have lunch. I saw the sea, and they took me to the school. And so I said, I was happy to be at the very end of the world. And there was somebody in the audience who says, I'm sorry, darling, but this is the beginning. And I said, that is, that is a good way to see yourself, right? And I was so ashamed of myself, standing there in front of all those teachers, living there, and me saying, this is the end of the world, hello. Awful, awful thing. Awful thing. But this is what happens when we work, and I'm making jokes and I'm trying to be light because the topic is really deep and serious, right? And it's because we start with the maps, but then we can start thinking about many other concepts that we have internalized or that we have never discussed, we have never questioned, we have never challenged. And remember that Anna Fox said in the first talk that one of the things that is creative is to be challenging and to be questioning. Right? And so the act of questioning is something we need to learn to do. Right? It's something we owe us that. Now, this is my approach. This is what I follow. This is what I managed to create for myself so as to explain what I do. And because I am a teacher, I'm a teacher of literature, but my first degree is teacher of English. And I love teaching literature, but I teach literature in English. That's what I do best, right? I tell stories in English. Of course I could teach in Spanish, but I don't want to because I am a teacher of English. And I identify myself as a teacher of English, right? And as a teacher of English, I know that when I teach the language, I use a lot of cognitive skills. I basically use cognitive pedagogies. And one of the cognitive pedagogies I use the most is CLIL. The one I used with the French teachers, that was all CLIL, right? And CLIL is all about critical thinking, comparing, contrasting. When we learn, how do we learn vocabulary? Well, I put the vocabulary in a story, but what I am doing is I am working with memorization. I want you to remember the words, right? This is all cognitive. So I know I use pedagogies of cognition constantly when I teach English. I cannot escape that. But that's not the only thing I do. I complement that with two more pedagogies that are as important as that. And one is the pedagogies of creativity, because if not, I get bored. So I'm sorry, but I used to work a lot of hours, so I needed to be engaged. And the best way for me to be engaged is to use pedagogies of creativity, because there you put yourself in. You get engaged with who you are, like you drawing your butterflies and your birds, right? You put yourself in, and that's what I want. So the pedagogies of creativity, there are many, right? Many of them have to do with narrative, storytelling, talking, and then it's self-expression. When I ask you to draw what you did, all those maps you did, those maps are your maps. You did them. It's you drawing. So it's your vision. It seems to be an innocent activity that takes 2 minutes. I could have extended it, of course, and I could have done other things, but I didn't. It took 2 minutes, but it's you imagining the world. So self-expression is connected with that. And then the pedagogies of inclusion, because being Freirean, as we all are, because we are South American and being humanists, I cannot escape the social thinking skills. Because when I say critical thinking skills, and I think of comparing, or I think of contrasting, or I think of categorizing, I do not necessarily mean social justice. I do not necessarily mean social thinking skills. And I need to think about that, because otherwise, why would I be an educator if I cannot transform my reality and the reality of my kids, the reality of my town, my context? If there is nothing I can do to change the status quo, then I go home. There's nothing I can do here. I do literature, so it's part of what I do. So the pedagogies of inclusion contribute to that. And it's not that I use the three of them at the same time all the time, but I constantly try to, right? And this is how they are all, with all the things I've been talking there now, no? Like developing empathy, developing intercultural awareness, developing perspective taking, or imagination, self-expression through art, or drama techniques, and you were having a drama session a minute ago, and storytelling, like the story I told you, or when pedagogies of cognition, whatever we talked about, right? So this is the frame that supports me when I talk to you about what we are doing. And this is why creativity needs to be taken into account. It's everywhere, and nobody tells you what it is really, but it's everywhere. It is in the 21st century skills we used to talk a lot about, creativity. It's in Carol Reed's See Will to Teach Young Learners. Carol Reed is the guru of young learner and creativity. I mean, we adore her. And in her will, she wrote creativity. And then when we do CLIL and we use the Bloom's taxonomy, at the very top is creating. So all of it has to do with creativity. That's why we need to work with creativity. And which are the two elements that creativity has? Hannah Fox mentions them. Imagination and innovation, right? And people, this is serious. This is really serious. Imagination is a skill. If we do not train the skill disappears. Like a skill, we have the skill that we speak English. If we do not use it, we forget it. Simple, it's a skill. So the problem is that the skill, imagination, is fabulous in life because it gives us tools to imagine ways out when we have problems. You can solve problems because you have imagination. It means that if you do not have imagination, you do not only draw a red flower with a green stem. No, you also do not know how you change your context and you get stuck. And I think that each one of us can mention several people we would like not to be stuck in life, right? So we need to work with imagination because it is the root of our own possibilities. It's one of the most important skills we have. And innovation, it's just having all these crazy ideas and putting them together. People, I designed my own pedagogical framework. Who am I? Nobody to do this. I don't care. I do it because I have imagination, and it's what I do. So because of that, I do it, and I am brave, right? Now, I said I was going to include intercultural education. But why? Because I wanted to show you how the cognitive, the creative, and the inclusive play a role together, right? And it's not that you can say, well, now we're going to do intercultural education, or now we're going to do creativity. They all happen at the same time, right? And when it comes to culture for intercultural awareness, culture is one of the most slippery things, right? When people say, they say lots of things about culture, many of them are right, many definitions are right about culture, but I was trying to think, what is it that we all know but we never say about culture? And one thing is that it's omnipresent. Whenever we are a group of people, we belong to a certain culture. That is because we're social. And you have your own culture of being teachers of English and of being teachers of this university or the province. It's invisible. It's omnipresent, but we don't see it really. We see like glimpses of culture. But can we see this is culture? Can we say that, really? It's really invisible. And it's neither pure or static. It's constantly moving. And it's not pure because it's in contact with lots of other cultures. So there's a lot of borrowing happening there, right? And it's infinite because as long as we are here on Earth, there will be culture. So as long as we do not disappear, will it be the same? No. Sometimes we say cultures, sometimes we say culture. Culture as a concept, we can say culture. When we talk about diversity, we always use the plural because we refer to the variety of cultures which interact. And the best metaphor for, and it's not mine, it's from the United States, and I don't remember who said it, forgot, but it doesn't matter because it's a classical metaphor. It's like the metaphor. The river. That's when you don't know the author you are quoting, you start saying all these things. Oh, thank you. Thank you. You see, the one in the States was doing plagiarism. No, but No, that's true. But that's why I say it's a classical metaphor. It's like, and classical would not be the term. It's ingrained. It's an ingrained metaphor. But this person in the States, he made a point of talking about the United States culture in terms of the river, and he compares it with the big American rivers like the Mississippi and so on and so forth. But if we think of culture as the river, it's interesting because it's always changing, always in movement due to interaction with other cultures, right? And it's always the same river, in a way, but it's never the same river. So it's a good, for me, it's an interesting metaphor. Now, what happens here is that when we teach English, which puts us in contact with other cultures, directly there, the very moment we say hello to my English class, we are already interacting with other cultures. Then what we need to do is we need to develop intercultural awareness. This is the tool, the skill our learners also need to learn in class with us. If you were my learners, I can go home because we have already done it. We have, I mean, I gave you food for thought. The map you had to draw, that was the exercise. You go home and you say, wow, so many years at school, I never thought that the map, and then you start seeing the map upside down, this like that, this the other way, etc. Because all of a sudden you see. Remember I say you didn't see what you think you saw. No, you saw what you didn't know you saw. Anyway, it's okay. So this is what we need to do. We need to give our learners the possibility to develop intercultural awareness, right? And the other thing we need to know is that nowadays intercultural awareness is intercultural encounters take place all the time, right? Especially now through social media. No? Now everything is accessible in a way. And they are part of our everyday life, and they are part of the children's everyday life. And sometimes they have a face-to-face encounter, but very often it is mediated in visual form. Pictures, reels, videos, movies, etc., etc., etc. And these intercultural encounters are not always nice. We have this fantasy sometimes as teachers that when we share the food we eat with others, we are doing intercultural experiences. Yes, it is an intercultural experience, but it is a non-challenging intercultural experience. An intercultural experience that is challenging is sometimes difficult because it goes to our beliefs, right? And then it can be more complex, and you need to be ready for that, right? And you need to also see when, how, etc. Which is the fear? Whenever there is an intercultural encounter and you are not ready, you perpetuate stereotypes. And sometimes the stereotypes are very mean. They can be demonizing, or they can exoticize, right? When I was living in Germany, I was exoticized. Yes, I was the Argentinian J-Lo. Yes, they thought I was a hot tamale. Yeah, like, oh yes, Latina, yeah, wow. And I said to them, don't you know that I live in what would be Finland for Latin America? And I came home and I said to my husband, it's going to be the only time in my whole life I will be seen as hot like Jennifer Lopez. Yeah, it was an interesting experience, and it was difficult to change their stereotype, and then I got a bit angry. No, at the beginning it was like fun, and then yeah. Now, I'm going to show you a unit in a book. This is one of National Geographic books for children. This is level 5, and it begins like this. I am using, the book, or the cover, is using the same strategy I used, which is defamiliarization, which is also a concept in literature, right? When you see something from a different perspective you have never seen, and then it shocks you and you don't know how to react, right? When I showed you the map, what I did was that, no? Playing a little bit with the defamiliarization effect. Now here again, we all see this and we know what this is, right? What is it? Van Gogh's Starry Night, right? But is it Van Gogh's Starry Night? No, no. It's why not? It's a new production. It's a recreation with what? Plastic. Yes. This unit is combining art and it's combining sustainable education and English. So they are learning words connected with arts and art in the town, and it also brings culture in, because, you know, Starry Night is a cultural icon of Western culture, high culture for some people, which we do not use anymore the term. So it's bringing a little bit of that as well. Sustainable education, English, all in one. And then it continues, and it works with the 3 R's, no? Reduce, reuse, recycle, or reuse, reduce, recycle, or the way you can call it. And then look at that. There's a sculpture in town which works, which also has the same idea. It's done with recycled material. Now, one activity for the children. Have you seen an artistic sculpture or something in your town, or some sort of cultural object that is used with recycled material? You did? Yes, you did. Okay, this could be something for the children to talk about at home and bring pictures if they can, or anything, or the names, etc. And then the activity, the creative activity, obviously, is to do something like this. It's not that they're going to produce these pieces of art, but they can bring recycled material, and then they can see whether they can create something with it. It can be ephemeral, like it disappears, or it can be something permanent, which remains in the school. This is a program called Escuelas Verdes in public schools in Buenos Aires. They can join in, and they learn the art of mosaicism, and they can do that. But there are very simple activities you can do with this. So you start working with the idea of recycling the material in the classroom, which is something we need to educate ourselves daily, right? Because if we want to survive, this is something we can do. And this is also intercultural education, but not so much with another culture in particular, but this is us being part citizens of the world, right? And protecting the world, protecting the earth. And if they are little, and you cannot do something like this, you can do something like this. You can bring material from outside that they can bring from home and work with them in the classroom. Why? Because you are teaching love of nature. Love of nature means protecting nature, right? So this is something, and this is an objective which is not so clear when we teach about reducing and reusing and recycling, but it is also there, and we need to think of all the different dimensions of this. And this is another, these are like mobiles, right, that you could do. And these are plastic things. So whatever you can do, here is a project that they have. In some schools they produce eco bricks, they do lots of different things, small, tiny moments, not like the whole thing, we're going to save the world. This is another topic which I wanted to, and this is the last thing, and I'll let you go home. The thing is the following. Everybody says that there are different ways in which we can become intercultural, and that one of them is traveling, right? Traveling. When we travel, we have this first-hand experience with our other cultures, and we live with them for a while, and so it changes us. It's true, traveling changes us. I will not say no. And it's true that traveling also contributes to developing intercultural awareness, but we need to be ready. We need to be ready to see. We need to be ready to be open. And that is something you can start working in the classroom. Because there is always in every book, there's a unit with people traveling, right? Going to this meeting, visiting London, New York, which has to do with the language we are teaching and the places where that language is spoken. So it's absolutely fair. Now, in this unit, for example, same book, yes, level 5, in this unit, they say, let's have original holidays. So one original holiday was a tree house holiday. So they were talking about, having a holiday on a tree house. And then there's questions, where would you like to go? I would like to go to a nice hotel. But after today and having been frozen here, perhaps not. No, but I mean, you can ask the kids whether they, it's a joke, please. You can ask the kids whether they imagine possible scenarios for going on holidays, like different, like they do not have to do with anything. But you can also use the textbook to ask the proper questions for them to start thinking. And look at this. Look at the questions. Remember Anna Fox's words. Creativity has to do with questioning, with asking the proper questions. Now look at these questions. Is tourism a good thing for a place? Is it a good thing for local people? How should tourists show respect for the places they visit? Compare what your ideas are. So look at that, questions which challenge your attitude when you go to a place to sightsee. How respectful you are, how careful, how you were talking, your group was talking about a concept, attentive listening. How attentive you are to the place, and how invasive you can be as a group, right? And what happens to the locals when you are invasive? Is there a chance? You can start with these questions when you're talking about this. And so they start getting ready to be able to respect what they don't completely understand, right? And they might not understand while they're doing the trip, maybe later, but there's so much we don't understand about other cultures, right? And then the activity, which was offered in the book, which I like, is a classical brochure. Classical brochure. We all know that, but we can add, like, working with one, for example, if I am going to introduce Córdoba, give hints about cultural tips. Beware of this, notice this, if you see people drinking mate, don't imagine this is any sort of drug. They're just, and they do not share it with people they don't know. Don't feel offended if you can give an example. Don't feel offended if they do not invite you with a mate or something like that. So you can give them some tips about, and you get to know about your culture. So you do the classical brochure that we all know. Since I was a child, we are doing the brochure. I mean, it's a classic, and it works all the time because it's talking about our culture, about our town, about ourselves, so it's nice. But we can give a twist to it and change it so it becomes more relevant. And, as I promised, this is the end of the presentation. What I was trying to do all throughout, using creativity as a resource, is to work with 3 concepts, which I think are necessary whenever we are teaching young learners, which is cultural sensitivity, culture intermediary, and overcoming stereotyped relationships. And if we manage to do all this, I guess that we can be the teacher who changes the life of our little boy.